Okay, cool. Um, let's just say that I hope. Let's just say that I hope this is somewhat insightful for anyone who might be considering, I suppose, online dating as a whole, right? So, Hinge. It's a strange place. It's a strange place to be. I'll just give you a brief story. So I had decided to try out Hinge as an option of kind of, meeting someone and seeing how that would go. And within, let's call it maybe a few weeks of being on the app, obviously conversations and matches kind of happen as and when you and someone else essentially find each other attractive. That's pretty much what you're basing a lot of this off of. And so when those matches happen, obviously conversation is supposed to follow that up. And in one instance, I'm talking within about 6 minutes of conversation, this woman had basically said to me that she wanted to have my babies. And quite literally and quite graphically, which obviously was an immediate red flag, swipe, block, delete, all of that stuff. But this is kind of what is part of this world as well. It's all a part of it. So let's just discuss some pros and cons to Hinge and other online dating apps and just online dating in general. So I would say the number one thing is obviously access. Is that you are able to see and essentially meet people that you would otherwise not be able to meet. That's a big thing. Obviously, the internet has always done that with people and connectivity. But obviously, in the online dating world, it goes the same way. And what's interesting about it is that obviously you can find people within your area who you've still never seen or met. And oftentimes, these people haven't necessarily moved into the area. They might have lived there their entire lives, but yet somehow your paths have never crossed. So in one sense, it's expanding your immediate ability to connect with people that you would never necessarily have come across. So that's gotta be a pro. There are things like conversational starters built in. So the apps are trying to promote you to and prompt you to say things which will entice conversation, and obviously leading points. So when you are now connecting and speaking with someone, you can pick up on something that has been prompted on the app, and conversation can kind of flow from there. So if you find that you've actually got something in common with someone, this can be like a real opener in terms of just finding mutual ground and finding a real connection quite fast. And so that is a positive thing in terms of the dating world and being able to go and meet people and see people and spend time with people. Obviously the starting point is a sense of safety and security, and this kind of provides something that is just that, essentially a very light form of it, but it's kind of connecting you both without having spoken. You immediately have something that you can discuss, something that potentially you'll both enjoy having a chat about, and may well lead, as it should naturally, to other conversational topics. So I would say that definitely feels like a pro to me. Okay. On that note as well, what I would say is that the control you have over space and boundaries is kind of only found in the online realm, if you like. So the fact that I can engage safely and securely with someone without committing too much in terms of my personal space to that person too soon, it's kind of perfect for that. So if you are someone who perhaps doesn't necessarily thrive in social environments or has a sense of social anxiety, which I would argue in one sense is kind of being fed by the apps if you continue to only engage with people on them, regardless of that, I think that this is quite a good and safe place to do so. So in one sense, and I'm not saying that you won't find people or things that come up on these apps. Of course you will, but what I'm saying is from the immediate engaging with someone from scratch, from the off, there is a sense that you are in control of the space, and that is good because you can now set a pace to how quickly you read and respond to messages. And that is also important as well, because there are things like love bombing and stuff like that which can happen, and so you want to be able to feel like this is somewhat organic within the context of an unorganic process, if that makes sense. So depending on the app, of course, as well, is that it becomes really easy to kind of filter things that you are into, hobbies, interests, religion, faith, all of those kind of things. What the apps do immediately is that it gives you the opportunity to suggest some of the things that you're into, particularly within the social context of being out there and being single, if you like, and it allows others to immediately see those things, see those values, align with those values, or not align with those values, and kind of keep it moving. And so both are really, really good and really important. What I will say on that is that it's great that people stop by your profile and see you, but it's also good that you try to represent who you are and what you'll be to people, because if they drop on your profile and you have represented yourself incorrectly, it's only going to be a matter of time before this person doesn't really want to connect with you or sees through whatever it is that you're trying to project. So I would say that it's really important that you try to be as truthful as you can, safely within that context, making sure that you're safe and not giving away any personal details that you don't feel safe doing so until the opportunity or the time suggests. But I would say one of the important differences between this and sort of meeting someone in person is that you can kind of have an idea about this person's values before you've even spoken to them, which again may save you some time if that's what it is that you're trying to save. It may not, and things like values and interests may not mean anything to you, but at some point, of course, if you're looking for a serious long-term relationship, and I'm not saying that you are, everybody dates for different reasons, but if that is what you're after, then of course it's just something that you want to kind of keep an eye on, So the cons, let's get into that. The cons of this are that you will stop essentially being open to people in the wider world to be more open to people on an app. And what I mean by that is if you get used to it, if the habit of meeting people and dating people online is something that you get used to, then what happens is in your day-to-day, you now either have your head down because you're so much in your app trying to find the next date that you don't see potential suitors walking by you, in the wild, if you like. But you also kind of just miss out on the magic of, meeting people in person and what that kind of story could be. And the fact that you kind of catch someone as they are a little bit more, as opposed to their representative and images that they've had of themselves for the last year in that flash moment where they were living their best life. Do you know what I mean? Because that person that's in that image, their best life, isn't necessarily the person you're going to be spending Monday to Friday with, maybe on Monday nights and Friday nights and whenever those images happen to be. But the reality is that you're going to be with someone who wakes up with bad breath in the morning, for lack of a better example. But do you know what I mean? It's that you have to kind of deep. And so meeting someone in person, I just think goes a little bit further, because you really kind of get to see this person, absorb this person, and you'll interact with them in a far more natural way than through that of an app. Okay, so that would be my starting point. I think it's a bit of a marketplace in that there's less importance on meeting someone in such a way than there is meeting someone in person. And so it's swipe culture, which means I just want to get to the best thing I can shop for as quickly as possible. So no, yes. you know, nope, 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 yes. And I suppose if it now drops, if the role's reversed and you're looking at someone who has perhaps swiped on you, and now you have to, again, decide whether that's going to be a match for you or not, then usually the same thing applies. Nope, 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 yes. You know? So it is a bit like there's just less. And because you're essentially looking at someone's photograph or video, you're not really capturing that person. And I know this because I photograph terribly. I really do. Like, I don't think that I'm unattractive as such, but I don't think that most of the photographs I take really represent how I look. And so it's this kind of like, you're never really going to absorb me, not all 6'2" of me, and you might read that and know that, and yeah, that might be your search preference, but you're just not going to know that. And so there are some details, some major details that you're going to miss about certain people. You know, I remember on one occasion, this woman had a different color hair in all of her images, and I was just like, well, what's the color going to be on our first date versus our last date, you know, or our second date, whatever. And I just thought I didn't, you know, it wasn't a person I was attracted to, and I didn't swipe, but I just thought that to myself. I thought, it's just like, how do I even know how am I going to be in the bar looking for the blue hair? Do you see what I'm saying? And so there's not a real representation of someone there, I don't think. And so that is a powerful thing. And I think that whilst you can get loads more, you're actually it's actually becoming more quantity over quality. And I think also what you don't know about even meeting someone in terms of the online realm is that you can get through all of the that you like. You can maybe even escalate to voice notes and things like that. But the fact is that when you meet someone, there is either a vibe or there isn't. That's the case with everybody you meet in life, right? You're immediately yourself with certain people more so than you are with others. And whilst you might find this person attractive, there's a point where your vibing is going to be really important anyway. So to kind of get so far down the line with speaking to someone to then meet and then decide actually we don't have a vibe is also risky business. I'll be honest with you, it's a bit risky. It is what this culture insists upon, but it's just risky. I'm not saying it's a problem, but it's just risky. Okay. So I think it can be a bit like emotionally exhausting, and like the need for validation, there's like a fatigue in that. And I think that it's just, it's an ongoing pool, and I think it's an addictive one. Most social media apps, most apps are quite addictive in that you have habits with your apps. I don't know if you noticed this, but I noticed that when I'm kind of deep into work mode, and certainly into my phone, if you like, there's like a pattern of me checking in. So I'm in work and it's like, let me just check in, and I'll maybe check in on Instagram. But then there's a pattern. My mind goes to my emails, and then it swipes out and goes immediately to WhatsApp, and then it swipes out and goes immediately to my messages. And it's like there's a pattern of interaction with these apps that is subconscious. So with a dating app, it can become addictive. This whole swipe until I find someone, because it's almost like an endless swipe. And of course, whilst you might be looking location based and something else based, you can always change your preferences the moment you want to, or the moment you're bored, or, you know, and that in itself creates kind of like an endless swipe, which means that now you haven't found the right person yet. They're there, but you just haven't swiped on their profile yet. So it kind of, and there is that attitude behind it, which I think can be quite dangerous, because again, I think it kind of withdraws you from actual society and actual community and actually being open to meet someone, which admittedly comes with its own issues at times. I think it kind of just totally removes that element and can be something that you do nothing else about other than swipe. So and then argue you can't meet the right person. So I think that's damaging. I think also the apps aren't perfect, and so whilst they might align you with someone that you think is a good match, I mean, ideally that you're attracted to this person. Obviously, the starting point, certainly for most men, attractive is the first sort of starting point. Then to read something of interest goes a step further. But I think that starting point doesn't necessarily get you much further than that, because the apps aren't necessarily built to really align your characters. How could they be? Of course, AI will bring us closer. I have no doubt about that. But the reality is that you can see a lot of people, but really aren't people that you're going to get along with. And sometimes that information is known to you quicker than other times, right? You might just feel like this is just off. Or this person is just non-responsive and then crazy responsive. Or this person is just crazy. They love me and I've just said hello. Do you see what I'm saying? Or this person just isn't bothered by this because it's an app and it's in their pocket and they really are looking for someone on the outside, and this is just an additional, when I get time on a Sunday afternoon, if I feel like it, I might, if you're attractive enough, entertain you dancing for me and making something happen, but it's all on you because I'm not really here. Do you see what I mean? So I think that can be a problem, and the fact that it will just from time to time mismatch you with the wrong people, which can either be a waste of your time or just emotionally draining, and again cause that fatigue, and I think that's something that most people would argue is long. And lastly, what I would say is that men tend to get fewer matches than women, which of course is sort of reflected in society anyway, in that most of my female friends are often approached by men more often than women approach men, if that makes sense, in sort of a romantic pursuit sense of the word. So it's no surprise, but it's just the balance is a little bit off. And so also what happens is that a lot of women tend to get a lot of guys who are sat in their DMs, and you are just a number, essentially, as a guy. You're just a man, and as attractive as you might be and as good as your qualities might be, one, it's never really going to come off the page, and two, she has a lot more options in there than you do. So it's just, which again for a woman might be wonderful, but the quality of those matches might be something to be mindful of. So that's where I would conclude the pros and cons of the dating world, essentially, online versus in person, And so my advice for any guys that are seeking to go online or continue online dating is just take breaks. Really important to take breaks. Don't just be there. Just don't be there the whole time. Take breaks, man. You need breaks, even if it's just psychologically to pull yourself away from the app and thinking that your next girlfriend just exists in that online space. All right. So just take breaks where possible. Okay. Always go for quality over quantity. Don't let the fact that you can talk to 5 people all at the same time encourage you to talk to 5 people all at the same time. I'm not to say that it's a big problem, because the reality is that you're not committed to anyone until you say otherwise. Having said that, it just reduces the quality of conversation that you can have with 5 people versus the quality you could have with one. So just be mindful that it's not about numbers. It's really, if you are there seeking someone genuinely that you would like to spend more time with. So verge on quality and not quantity. Don't lead with loneliness, right? Don't let it be a place that you're going to because you are lacking or you feel the need to be with someone because of lack, right? Loneliness is a real thing. Let's just be clear on that. It is, and it really does impact men, particularly in a society where men are perceived as stronger, and therefore we're supposed to represent being stronger, and therefore we don't talk about our feelings as much, and therefore we isolate. And so when some man is often going through something like loneliness, it's not necessarily something he's ever going to say. And it's not to say that women don't experience the same thing, but it's just why we find so many men in our society coming to that that breaking point, you know, which is very dangerous. And so I digress. Don't let it be something that you're doing out of loneliness. Let it be something that you're doing out of curiosity. Nothing wrong with just kind of getting out there, seeing in terms of, if you are interested in dating and you are trying to find someone, then it's a good and safe space to start to explore that, to start to find out what you do and don't like. If you're coming out of a divorce or separating from someone and maybe you've got children, it's also kind of like a safe space for you to introduce that without having to have that conversation with someone. And I say that because that's a reality of being a single parent and starting to use online dating, is that at some point you need to let this person know that you've got children. Now, most of these apps provide you with the opportunity to do so. Now, it might not be something that you just want to sing about to start off with. It might be something that you really want to share with someone when it's more appropriate to do so. But it is also a nice way to just filter out anyone that doesn't want to have anything to do with people that have children, you know, or someone that doesn't want anything to do with someone that's divorced or separated. And it's just good to know that, because there are moments where you can find yourself really interacting with someone that potentially could be a wonderful suitor. You then just discover that this person is not down for children, or is not down with being with someone who's previously married or had anything, you know, got an ex-wife or an ex-husband. And so that's a big elephant in the room. That's a big moment, and that's kind of like a big end to what could potentially have been a great relationship, right? So it's a nice safe space for you to be able to share that information kind of up front, and therefore anyone that is now swiping on your profile and obviously clicking on your profile trying to match with you, at least now if you match, they should have an understanding of what comes along with you as a package, right? So I would also say, just try to know your worth. Now, that doesn't mean that you are gonna be stuck up and nah, I won't accept just hey, because, and what I mean by that is hey as the opener, hello, whatever. And I've come across this, and I know many of my friends who are like, no, if they just have that hey talk, I don't even want to hear that in the DMs, which is fine. But it's also like, now you're insisting upon something that you would be quite fine with in the out open wild. You know, if you were out in a bar and a guy came over and said hey, that wouldn't be like, oh my gosh, leave me alone, what are you doing? Of course he's got to follow it up with something that's interesting and something that you have, you know, you would respond to. But in this world, that kind of stuff can be shot down quickly. Yeah, hey, I ain't got time for no hays, bruv. You better entertain me from the off. So what I would say is, be careful not to enter the space where you are now just like a dancing monkey. Do you know what I'm saying? Know your value. It just means know your worth. And it means that, like the open world, like the wild, not everyone is just gonna love you and that's that. It's not just gonna be that story. So you've just got to be open to, right, maybe this person wasn't responding to the fact that I wasn't prepared to jump through every hoop or entertain them in an app, you know? So hold on to your value. It can easily be sort of washed away with endless swiping, endless liking of other people's profiles, and no matches, you know what I mean? So yeah, retain the fact that this is just an app, and that no one is really looking at you or assessing you. They are literally lining you up and giving you 5 to 15 seconds worth of their time, and that's that. What I would also say is that real life still matters, okay? So try to involve yourself in community. I'm always talking about community. It's really, really key, man. It's really important to just meeting people and being more open to meeting people. Not only that, but it's not just about meeting someone out in public, right? It's about being prepared to meet someone. I think a lot of the problem with a lot of men in particular is that because they are so much invested in the swipe culture, when it comes to actually being out and about, they're not now able to communicate in the same way they are in the DMs, if you like, whether that be more directly or whatever. It's just there's not the ability to do that. So you've got to you've got to kind of work on that. It's something that you have to keep investing in over and over and over. And that means just being able to be sociable with other people, you know. Try to get involved in community that you're not already involved in. And just meet new people. Try to provide that opportunity for yourself once a week where possible, where you're just going somewhere to meet people. Can be the same group of people, but in a more ideal sense of the word, that there might be one or two people that are new every week as well. It's a growing community, if you like. Or one that interacts with other communities. Your sports team, they go and they see other teams. Do you see what I mean? So that's really important as well. I think overall, dating apps should just complement life, not kind of overtake it. So there's nothing wrong with being on there, knowing what you're looking for. If someone who's right comes along, awesome. Nothing wrong with that. That's wonderful. But just don't be reliant upon it, and try not to spend every waking minute on it, because it's also unattractive to just be on there over and over and over. Do you see what I mean? Like, have a life. And what I mean by it's unattractive is that if you're just on dating apps and you're able to respond all the time, all day long, it's just like, well, what you do with your life other than looking for someone online? It's a bit predatorial. Do you see what I'm saying? So just relax a little bit, add it to your life, but don't be out here just every day swipe. Yeah. So, to hinge or not to hinge, there is no perfect answer. It's totally down to the person. It's totally down to the individual. I think there is a safe and a good time for it if you are now single and looking for a way to re-involve yourself in a community of sorts and to try to find a new relationship. I think there is a downside and a bad side, which is when it now becomes your only source of finding a relationship, or it now starts to leak into your life and kind of take over time where you would normally be sociable, and now you're just in this swipe culture. I also think there's an aspect where, you know, you can be meeting the wrong people because an app said you guys like each other's faces and you had a cool conversation in the DMs, which isn't a problem, but it just can be. So something to be mindful of. But there are fairy tale endings to these things as well, which I'm also aware of, and it can happen like that as well. So I think it's down to the individual. Just be in control of it. Don't let it control you. Use the app. Don't let the app use you. And try to have fun. Just enjoy it. You know, if you're gonna be on there, then just try to enjoy yourself, represent who you actually are. There's no point in being anyone else because they're gonna find out one day. So just be who you are, and don't let it be your all. Make sure you've got more to yourself than a good profile.